So a couple of days ago, Nintendo dropped a new Super Mario Maker update out of the blue. The Legendary update. And wow, legendary it is indeed. Not only did we get tons of new items and even enemies to toy around with, but we also got a completely new game mode and even an amazing new power-up. But all of these new additions also raise an important question. How good are the new items? Which one is the best one? And more importantly, which new item is the absolute worst? Well, today we're finally going to answer this eternal question, because today we'll discuss the new possibilities the new items open up, and we will rate all of them. So you ready? Let's do this! Okay, so first things first, we're going to rank the new items using the only logical way of rating stuff. We'll rate them using fuzzies, like always. The maximum amount of wonderful fuzzies an item can get is 5. The minimum amount is 1. The more fuzzies, the better. Obviously. So let's start by taking a look at the new frozen coins. So frozen coins are kind of an interesting addition to the game. At first glance, they don't appear to be a super interesting new item, since they're just, well, coins that are frozen, but as it turns out, they're incredibly powerful for building cool contraptions for several reasons. So first, they are the second item in the game that changes state when it comes in contact with fire. The other one are obviously bob-ombs. But while bob-ombs take forever to do something funny after they touched fire, frozen coins immediately change state, and more importantly, they immediately stop being solid. That's really cool because solid frozen coins are able to spawn block items, while unfrozen frozen coins allow items to spawn on top of them. So if we want to have a door hidden somewhere in the stage that only opens up after our Slink cosplaying plumber reached a certain spot in the stage, then all that we would have to do is to put a frozen coin behind a bullet blaster somewhere in the stage, and once this lava bubble gets loaded, it travels to the coin, unfreezes it, and allows the blaster to spawn from then on. Hooray! But the really cool thing about frozen coins is that they are part of the block entity limit. Items in the block entity limit are always loaded, which means that we can unfreeze global coins that are very, very far away. And using this allows us to unspawn block stuff basically from everywhere in the stage without the need to tinker around with global ground. So what's the final rating for frozen coins? It's 4 wonderful fuzzies. They are an amazing new addition and allow for a lot of cool gimmick levels and are useful for tons of different contraptions. The only reason they don't get 5 fuzzies is, well, I mean, first they're coins, and second, I mean, that's probably a bit nitpicky, but if Nintendo went out of their way to implement frozen mechanics, then why can't we just freeze all items? Like have frozen blocks that don't contain coins, have the option to freeze Goombas or Koopas or I don't know, maybe even Bowser. But the new frozen blocks are a great addition nonetheless. Since we're talking about blocks, let's take a look at the new P block. So those are kind of a weird addition. I honestly didn't expect them to add P blocks to the game, since coins and brick blocks basically act in a very, very similar way. I think the reason why they added them is mainly for multiplayer stages that use P-switch shenanigans. When a disgusting coin gets collected, it becomes impossible that this coin turns into a solid block again. Since multiplayer stages do not reset their state when a player dies, this means that such a stage can break really easily. And with P-blocks, that can't happen anymore. Which, you know, is cool. They don't add too much to the game other than that. It's kind of cool that they allow us to have power block explosions without messing with P-switch setups. It's cool that they don't break when a shell comes in contact with them. They even allow us to transform the floor into not so shiny, yet still deadly dotted P-blocks, and I found them really useful for decoration purposes so far. So let's go with 3 fuzzies here. There's nothing wrong with P-blocks, but they aren't a huge game changer either. A solid new item. For a not so solid new item, let's talk Pokies. So, Pokies, I'm disappointed in you. Turns out you spiked guys are kind of useless. Pokies add almost nothing new to the game. They're basically a glorified Goomba tower. So having new items is obviously always welcome, even if it is only so that we don't have to look at the same 7 threats over and over again. But other than that, Pokies add almost nothing new to the table. They don't go into pipes or blasters, they can't be stacked, they don't have a big mushroom form, they just aren't that interesting. The only thing that Pokies have going for them is that they're kind of interesting when put on tracks, that snow Pokies drop a snowball when defeated, and that their night mode form is kind of interesting. But overall, sorry, my dearest Pokies, but that's just 2 fuzzies for you. No idea why Nintendo decided to add Pokies before the patch in fuzzies. But whatever. Since we're talking about whatever, the dash panels. That's 1 lonely fuzzy. What a wasted opportunity. First, it is really lame that dash panels only exist in a 3D world style. Second, it is even lamer that they only work with Mario. Like, they don't even accelerate Koopa cars that drive over them. They're kind of cool when building 3D world speedrun stages, but that's already a really niche case. Dash panels are even global ground, which would be unbelievably useful in any other game style. But since the cloud blocks in 3D world are global ground as well, not even that is really useful. Sorry dash panels, you're definitely not my favorite new addition. So let's talk about the Ninja mode. So first, congratulations to Nintendo for implementing an online game mode with working netcode. You're slowly getting there, buddy. Second, yeah, that's a really cool addition to the game. Tons of people enjoy grinding for good speedrun times, and this game mode probably just added dozens of hours of playtime for those people, and it doesn't get into the way of people who don't care. Having the ninja ghosts visible while grinding the stage is also something that is really cool. It really makes a difference, at least for me, if I'm running against the clock or if I'm running against the ghost of an actual player. Playing this mode for a while also made me really wish that ninjas could exist for all stages. It would be so cool if each level in the course world had the ghost data of the current world record holder stored, and if it were possible to race against this ghost in each and every stage. Anyway, so I'm honestly not sure how to rate the new game mode since, you know, it isn't really an item. So I decided to go with 5 fuzzies here, simply because ninjas are now the one thing in Super Mario Maker that looks the most like a fuzzy. Okay, so 2 new items are left for us to rate, and those 2 new items are by far the most interesting additions. So first, let's talk about spikes. Well, holy fuzzy, spikes are so unbelievably great. They are so insanely interesting. They allow for so many new and mind-blowing things. It's completely bonkers. So first, let's talk about the actual spikes. Those are nice. They're a new enemy into the game that kind of fills a role that the game was lacking so far. It's an enemy that shoot projectiles that kind of persist and interact with tons of things. So those on its own would already be amazing. But the really cool thing about spikes aren't the spikes, it's the content of their stomach that is the real game changer. It's the spike balls. So I'm actually going to argue that spike balls are the best item in the whole game. That spike balls are the pinnacle of Super Mario Maker. That the introduction of spike balls is of equal importance for the Mushroom Kingdom as the invention of the printing press was for our own world. So here are the 3 main reasons why spike balls are super great. First, they're the first item that has actual slope physics. They're the first item in the game that actually accelerates when rolling down a slope and slows down when rolling upwards. That's something we simply didn't have in the game before, and it is something that should allow for insane shenanigans, especially in combination with seesaw platforms. So second, spike balls interact with everything a shell interacts with. They can trigger question blocks, destroy brick blocks, flip two-step blocks, and so on. But not only do they act the same way as a traveling shell, but they already spawn like a traveling shell. What I mean by that is that they leave pipes rolling, can be thrown by Lakitus, and immediately start to travel, and so on. There's no need for spring setups to get an input from A to B anymore. Now we can just spawn a spike ball and our input reaches its destination. And best of all, the spike ball destroys itself after triggering a block, meaning that we don't have to worry anymore about catching shells after they transported an input. It's just amazing, but that's still not their best feature, because their best feature is, third, spike balls exist in the 3D world style. Hooray! So the thing is the following, there's an insane amount of potential for crazy contraptions in the 3D world style, mainly because of track blocks and the exclamation mark blocks, which in theory would allow for tons of unique things, but the 3D world style lacks placeable shells, and without placeable shells, we basically lack electricity. But thanks to spike balls, we're finally able to transfer signals easily in the 3D world style, which should open up thousands of crazy new contraptions and shenanigans. Like seriously, spike balls all on their own make the 3D world style like 100 times more interesting and powerful. And we haven't even really talked about the snowballs, which, you know, give us even more new amazing tools to tinker around with. Spike balls are just wow. Therefore, we aren't going to rate them with just 5 fuzzies. We're going to rate them with 5 gigantic rainbow fuzzies to really point out how unbelievably amazing they are. Spike balls, you're honestly the best item in the game so far. Great job. Alright, so finally, let's talk about the Master Sword and Link. So first, that's an easy 5 fuzzy rating here. Having a second character option with a completely different moveset just adds so much to the game, it's unreal. What I personally find the most interesting thing about the Link power-up is that it actually adds combat to the game. You know, in Mario it's usually not really possible to create boss fights or enemy encounters that revolve around anything but, well, jumping, since Mario lacks the ability to attack, if we ignore the Tanuki tail and the fire flower for a second. But Link actually has a complete and really interesting combat moveset, like several different directions he can shoot arrows in, a sword move, a dash move, the ability to throw bombs, and even the ability to do a downward thrust. Funnily enough, this moveset looks better suited for boss fights and combat levels to me than it appears to be suited for puzzle stages, but I haven't really tinkered around much with the options to build puzzle stages so far. It's definitely an insanely cool new addition to the game, and I really hope that it isn't the only other character power-up Nintendo adds to the game. Samus and Kirby power-ups would be insanely cool as well. That being said, there is a small downside to the Master Sword. It acts like a normal power-up, which means that if we take damage, the power-up is lost. I honestly think it would have been better if the power-up permanently changed Mario to Link, or at least until Link hits a mushroom, and to either have Link die if he takes damage, or to add 3 little heart pieces to the top left screen that act as a health bar. As it is now, there is no real solution for a combat stage where the player is supposed to play as Link, but takes damage. We either have to hand out power-ups like candy to avoid softlocks, or we simply accept that the stage softlocks as soon as the player gets hit, which, you know, both isn't optimal. Also, Link's bombs walk in the night theme. Cool. Okay, so here we have it. Overall, I think the update is a real game changer. Just the spike balls and the Master Sword power-up open up so many insane possibilities with the game, it's really amazing. And then there are the smaller additions like Pokies or Frozen Coins that definitely add to the game in a meaningful way. The update is also far bigger and more substantial than anything we ever got in Super Mario Maker 1. And it is free, so yeah, I'm pretty hooray about the update. Still no fuzzies though. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this little video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up and maybe feel especially spikeball today and want to hit the subscribe button as well. I hope that all of you have a wonderful day and see you soon. Goodbye!